Good evening, everybody. It looks like the Supreme Court just might uphold presidential immunity for President Trump. That's according to the analysis of Mike Davis, founder of the Article 3 Project, and he's not alone. Yesterday, Reuters noted the conservatives who hold the majority on the court have signaled that presidents must have some level of protection from criminal charges for acts taken in office. That is a big report from a left wing outlet. We don't want to raise false hopes here. The odds are certainly still stacked against President Trump, like we've never seen before in this country. While it is only common sense that a president should not have to deal with local prosecutors when he is carrying out the business of the nation, it looks like just maybe there is good news on the horizon for Donald Trump and for, indeed, the constitutional republic. Meanwhile, Communist China is warning the United States of what it termed a downward spiral in the relations between the two countries if Antony Blinken doesn't heel to the CCP like a lapdog. This is the same communist dictator who unleashed COVID on the world without consequence, spies on America incessantly, steals hundreds of billions of dollars in intellectual property and technology from the United States every year, and has dispatched minions to cross over the southern border into the United States in an effort to destroy America. Fentanyl, made in China, and without question, the deadliest drug that is in the marketplace at this very moment. 100,000 Americans dying each year. And the puppet president is as corrupt and compromised as they come. She's commie blood money has bought Biden's servile obeisance to this ruthless dictator, and Biden's energy policies kneecap the United States and benefit China. It's that straightforward. It includes so-called green energy policies that benefit China's rare earth mineral exports for electric cars and harm America's petroleum and natural gas production. We're missing out on the greenest and most efficient energy source of all, nuclear energy. And Biden has no plans to restore our strategic oil reserve. Biden's disastrous presidency has been a Chinese dream come true. And there is a reason that is so. And on top of all this, the Biden regime wants to declare a climate emergency to seize emergency powers that dissolved with the end of the COVID pandemic. This is how unhinged the Marxist left has become to desperately cling to power. That is because they fear a reckoning in the coming re-election of President Donald Trump. And joining us now to discuss how China is benefiting from Biden's war on energy, founder and CEO of Uranium Energy and the chairman of Gold Mining Inc., Amir Adnani. And Amir, great to have you with us on the show. It is these are peculiar times. You're obviously invested in energy. You're invested in all sorts of mining initiatives. I want to talk first about what is happening right now in the country. The President of the United States is talking about a climate emergency that he implies, and I think we can readily infer that he means to take back pandemic-like powers to himself without so much as a nod to the Congress or the consent of the governed. Your thoughts about this pretext for more totalitarian power at 1600 Pennsylvania in the name of a climate emergency?
It seems ironic that if we have a climate emergency and if there's climate concerns, that we wouldn't fast track one of the best tools that we have in our energy arsenal, which is American atomic energy or nuclear power. 1 in every 5 home, Lou, in America is already powered by nuclear energy. It's the largest source of emission-free electricity that we have. Over 50% of the energy generated in the country that's emission-free is nuclear power. It works 24/7. It doesn't, unlike renewable sources like wind and and solar that are intermittent and don't work if the sun doesn't shine and if the wind doesn't blow. Nuclear power works all the time. And so alongside the very abundant fossil fuels that we have in the country, it just seems ironic that we would not place more emphasis and support on growing nuclear power, or making sure that our existing reactors are sufficiently powered by uranium, which is the fuel that we use to generate electricity in a nuclear reactor.
And that power, that nuclear power, is controversial, and to this very day. And the technologies that have been applied so far, they are across some parts of the world, but here in the United States, it is there seems to be a strong, powerful resistance to it, whether it be because of protecting current energy companies, industries, or because of simple fear of what is a very complicated concept, that is dealing with nuclear fuels and what to do with their waste byproducts, right?
You're 100% correct that there's been a historic reluctance around fully embracing nuclear energy and its incredible potential. Having said that, there is a shift and there is growing support that we see in public opinion polls that shows increasing support for nuclear energy in the US. This, I think, is driven by the fact that, again, we are living in a very energy intensive world today. Energy is life, and we need energy for every facet of our day-to-day existence. A modern healthcare system, transportation system, all of it requires energy. And so when you think about what can provide for ample, abundant, reliable, low-cost energy, we keep arriving at the doorsteps of nuclear power. I believe in the last year, we've seen a significant shift, Lou, in public sentiment improving towards embracing nuclear energy. And look, the good news is the largest nuclear reactor fleet in the world is actually already in the US. 92 reactor units are already operating. We don't need to build them. We don't need to spend capital to develop it. It's already there. And it's safe. And it's shown over its 50-year existence as an industry, as a source of clean energy, to in fact be the safest form of energy generation that we have in the world, despite the bad rep that it gets.
Yeah, I wonder if the nuclear power energy, if energy companies across the board are going to be enthusiastic about President Trump's election on November 5th. He has been, to this point, the friendliest of those seeking the highest office in the land to nuclear energy, to actual energy independence. He insists upon it as a matter of national security. And it looks like industry, not just the nuclear industry, but the energy component sector of this economy, is starting to embrace this man who they once misunderstood mightily and now see as the likely victor in this year's election. Your thoughts about how business generally is reacting to the president now, as we see more and more of the donors moving toward President Trump?
There's no doubt that when President Trump was in office, he was the most effective and biggest supporter nuclear energy has ever had in the country. And so he really got it. He understood the importance of this form of energy. Since then, the other kind of game changer here, Lou, is that big corporations in America, particularly big tech, along with the likes of Amazon, have embraced nuclear energy because of the needs for powering their artificial intelligence plans. Artificial intelligence requires data centers require energy. And the amount of energy that's needed to power these data centers, it provides a real step change in power consumption in this country. So Amazon, for example, recently announced plans to sign a deal with a nuclear utility. So I think we're going to see a shift here where not only do we have
You're talking about a shift. And Amir, I ask you about Donald Trump. Is he being embraced by
Back
business
to that,
now?
I'm going. Oh yeah, no, I'm going back to Donald Trump here in a second, and that I think with him coming back to power, we have the stars aligning in terms of the right policy, but supported with the right demand coming from the biggest companies in the country.
Amir, thanks for being with us. Amir Adnani, we appreciate it and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks so much. Well, turning now to a few headlines. Pope Francis blasting so-called climate deniers as, quote, fools in his first ever U.S. television interview. It was a humdinger. Watch.
Francis is also the first pontiff to make climate change a priority. In 2015, to make an important point, images of the environment were projected onto St. Peter's Basilica, the dome designed in the mid-16th century by Michelangelo.
What do you say to the deniers of climate change?
Hay gente que es necia.
There are people who are foolish, and foolish even if you show them research. They don't believe it.
¿Por qué? Generalmente.
Why? Because they don't understand the situation or because of their interest. But climate change exists.
El cambio climático existe.
His progressive style has made him popular worldwide, with millions coming here to St. Peter's Square to catch a glimpse of the Holy Father.
Well, this Marxist Pope needs, some say, to stay in his lane and talk about the radical Marxist assault on Christianity and Israel, and not prop up Marxist claims of, climate change, and which becomes, by the way, almost a religion with these Marxists of the left, doesn't it? And now to the pro-Hamas demonstrators and the protesters' reign of terror on our university campuses. Late last night, Columbia University gave a cryptic 7-word update to the American public and, of course, their community on negotiations as the deadline passed again to clear the anti-Israel protests. Here it is, 7 words, quote, "We have our demands, they have theirs," end quote. Isn't that clever and balanced? Oh, and perfectly proportional. It also turns out George Soros is bankrolling the anti-Jewish takeovers at our universities. The Hungarian-born communist has funded pro-Hamas hate encampments at college campuses all around the country. And in a twisted effort to radicalize and mobilize his Marxist foot soldiers to create chaos during Biden's campaign for re-election. And one of these Marxists, the villainous Ilhan Omar, deployed to Columbia University and said the students were, quote, joyfully protesting, said she. Her radicalized daughter, of course, why would she not be? Ezra Hersey, who is a junior at Columbia's women's school, was suspended for her role in inciting the Columbia revolt. The Minnesota congresswoman said she is enormously proud of her radical daughter for taking a stand against, quote, genocide. Well, that's amazing. Detestable rhetoric as well. Take a listen to a senior at Columbia University who claims to be non-binary to, well, say that Zionists don't deserve to live. You've got to watch this to believe it.
If we can agree as a society, as a collective, that people, some persons need to die if they have an ideology that results in the death of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, if there are people like that who exist, shouldn't they die? Zionists, they're Nazis. They're Nazis. They're fascists. They're supporters of genocide. Why would we want people who are supporters of genocide to live? I'm confused. Someone in the chat right now, should people who are supporters of genocide, should Zionists, aka Nazis, white supremacists, should they live? Should they live?
Well, there it is. You have to see it to believe it. The only words I heard I agreed with was something about confusion. Well, joining us now is Congressman Max Miller of Ohio. He originally proposed the resolution that got Ilhan Omar kicked off the Foreign Affairs Committee. I want to start with the ugly, this ugly campaign of terror across the country's universities. And the most prestigious universities in the Ivy League, at least so called, the ugly is uglier than anything elsewhere in the country. How is it that such anti Semitism, such anti Israel demonstrations could be, first of all, permitted, and secondly, allowed to disrupt the entire university because the university leadership, I assume, is just so weak? I mean, this is a terrible moment in American history.
Well, it's incredibly upsetting. And Lou, just being one of two Jewish Republicans in all of Congress, we have to look at how this started. We have professors on these liberal elite universities who are out there screaming genocide when there is no genocide happening in Gaza. That is, to be clear, they are infiltrating our universities with this type of rhetoric. And the presidents who aren't shutting it down, imagine this. Imagine if they were talking about minorities. Imagine if they were talking about African Americans. Instead, you have people out there saying final solution, free Palestine. This isn't a policy issue.
It's insane that the national news media in this country permits that kind of false conjoining of two very different organizations, one a terrorist organization and the other defending the state of Israel.
Well, and just to be clear, Lou, there is no moral equivalence, as you and I know. And I hope to believe that most of the Americans within this country know that there's no moral equivalence between Israel defending itself against terrorists who hide Palestinian civilians and Israeli and American hostages in mosques. They hold them in hospitals. They hold them in children's schools. This is what we're up against. And all of this rhetoric that we're seeing, even what's going on just back to college campuses, all of these green tents. You know, when I was in the military, when I was in the Marine Corps, they always told us, look for the anomalies. Well, the anomaly that I'm seeing is that this is a coordinated effort. And there was a story that was released today by the New York Post that says George Soros is now funding the vast majority of all of this going around. What you're seeing is the Biden administration listening to the loudest minority to try to get Palestinian supporter votes within Dearborn, Michigan, because he thinks that that's the ticket. But what he doesn't see is that Israel should be given the right to have the latitude to do what they need to do to protect itself, just as we did when we went into Iraq, Afghanistan, and everywhere else. Believe me, what is going on, it's tragic. But Israel can take advice from people, but they certainly don't have to follow it.
Yeah, I know you didn't mean it the way it might have, some people might take it. But the reality is, we don't have to give Israel anything. We don't have to give them latitude. They have won that latitude of independence, self-determination, and certainly self-defense. And the ignorance of the Biden administration to try to interfere with the leadership of Israel at a time of conflict is despicable. No one wants to say it out loud. What is this administration other than a puppet regime that is managed by the Marxist Dems of the Democrat Party? They're not only anti-Jewish and anti-Israel, they're anti-Christian, they're anti-America. And yet we watch the media blunder on as if the national corporate media, as if there was no real import to all of these distinctions and gradations of difference between Israel and Hamas and, of course, Iran. Your thoughts about what our position should be toward Iran? You can't possibly imagine a more ridiculous policy than the one followed by Obama and then now Biden.
Yeah, I mean, that was legitimately pallets of cash that we gave to the Iranian government. I mean, that was what people think we're doing with the Ukraine supplemental, and it's not. What needs to be done is Iran, Russia, North Korea, and the Chinese Communist Party are all tied in together into what I believe is the new evil axis around the globe. These people only understand one thing, and I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that we need to go over there and we need to level something. But I will tell you, history has told me that when our country is strong and our allies are strong, we bring stability to the world. And I believe we need a little bit more of that. And people like the Iranian government and the Khamenei only understand one thing, and that's brute force. He will understand absolutely nothing else other than Israel or any other allied nation hitting them at their front door. President Trump was able to do that. He did that when he dropped off 22 Tomahawk missiles in Syria. Nothing ever happened ever again after that. He picked up the phone, he called Putin, he said, "You better not cross that line." Putin didn't cross that line. That is where we need to be.
Yeah, and his accomplishments, whether in terms of the state of Israel, they are going to be written about for decades to come. His achievements, what he did, and the way in which he governed in his first term in office. But the reality is, he's running this year, and he does not have the support of American Jews. Joe Biden does. And that is the kind of ignorance among the Jewish people in this country that I do not comprehend. This is insane for them to support a president like Biden and all that he has done it's simply adversarial to the interest of the state of Israel. What has he done in terms of the anti-Semitism raging across college campuses? What has he done? And why isn't that significant enough to Jewish Americans to make a difference in who they endorse and vote for?
Well, two things real quick. One, you're absolutely right. President Biden should have come out with a statement day one when Columbia University and all these liberal elites and Ivy League campuses started to turn into Woodstock, and when it's not supposed to be. And then he needed to address that, and he still hasn't. And it's sad. It shows me that maybe he doesn't truly care about the Jewish people and that this is all about politics for him. But the second part is, Lou, you asked a question that so many people like myself who are Jewish ask, even myself and other Jewish people, which is, how can you be a Democrat to support these values and the anti-Semitic rhetoric that is carried within their party without question? And it's because I believe they have put their political ideology in front of their Judaism in terms of their religious beliefs. And for some people, I have seen that they are more disconnected and they are only culturally Jewish or culturally this and culturally that, not practicing, which means that they're not in touch with our higher power or Hashem. So they have now taken these things that were never, look, abortion was never.
No. I want to keep. I don't want to get into abortion.
All right.
I really don't. I mean, I want to focus on the reality, the pragmatic, and also the proximate, and that is a war of terror against American Jews and Israelis, it may be, it can be a rationalization, the culture, clannish sort of preferences of any socioeconomic group. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes down to this moment in time, there's no room for rationalization. If Jewish Americans do not see what is happening to them and what is happening to this country because of their support, in part, for these Marxists, then the conclusion will rest entirely on their heads. And I think you and I both know what the conclusion could well be if we do not reelect Donald Trump as president. Max Miller, we appreciate you being with us. Come back soon. We'll have a further discussion and perhaps a brighter update on the progression of Jewish Americans and their political choices. Thanks so much for being with us. Well, there is a number of sayings that might apply to this, but let's just go straight to Adam Schiff. He wants to be the next senator from California. And guess what happened to him in the great state of California and in San Francisco? Well, the senator was robbed last night, and the gangsters stole his suit right out of his car. Shifty Schiff was not shifty enough. He had to show up at a meeting for his Senate election campaign looking like he had been selling hunting and fishing equipment at a Bass Pro Shop. As one dinner guest quipped, Welcome to San Francisco. And I'm sure that Shifty Schiff did feel welcome in the midst of all those gangsters. Well, let's turn to something much, much more enjoyable. And I'm pleased now to bring you some developments at My Pillow. My Pillow is excited to bring you the biggest bedding sale ever. Get the Giza Dream Bed sheets for as low as $39.98. $39.98. A set of pillowcases only $9.98. And rejuvenate your bed with a My Pillow mattress topper for as low as $99.99. They also have blankets in a variety of sizes and colors and styles, plush, waffle, down for as low as $39.99. My Pillow even has blankets for your pets. I love it. Blankets for your pets. We use the dog beds all over this house, to tell you the truth, and now they're going to get some blankets, I guarantee you. Get huge discounts on duvets, quilts, down comforters, body pillows, couch pillows, and so many more. So go to mypillow.com and use promo code Dobbs. You'll be glad you did. Or call 800-977-9152. Get all of your shopping done while quantities are there, and they won't last. Remember, use promo code Dobbs. Great bargains, great quality, a great promo code. I'm sure you agree. And join us on my podcast, The Great America Show, available at loudobbs.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, turning now to government overreach. If you're a conservative banking with Wells Fargo, Citibank, Chase, or U.S. Bank, there's a chance these and 9 other financial institutions have spied on you at the behest of the Biden administration. Biden's FBI and Financial Crimes Enforcement Network also asking Charles Schwab, PayPal, Western Union, and many others to turn over customer data. The feds comb for extremism indicators, which include buying a Bible or searching terms like MAGA and Trump. These revelations, part of an ongoing investigation led by Chairman Jim Jordan of the House Judiciary Committee. Watch as Jordan explains how we got here.
Our investigation started when an FBI whistleblower, George Hill, came forward and talked to the committee. Mr. Hill was supervisory intelligence analyst at the FBI up in the Boston field office, told the committee that the FBI got information from Bank of America. Specifically, it received a list of any customer who made purchases in the Washington, D.C. area January 5th through 7th, 2021. The whistleblower's supervisor, special agent in charge of the Boston field office, Mr. Bonavolanta, corroborated Mr. Hill's testimony when he spoke to the committee. And so did Steve Jensen, the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Operations Section Chief. But it wasn't just purchase data around a specific date that the FBI got from Bank of America. That was actually also overlaid with any firearm purchase at any time.
And no word yet on whether the feds regard the people chanting death to America on college campuses to be, as they term it, extremists. We'll see. Let's bring in someone who knows firsthand what happens when the security state, the surveillance state, goes after Americans. Joining us now, former January 6th prisoner, Derek Evan. He's also running, I am pleased to tell you, for West Virginia's 1st Congressional District. Derek, great to have you with us.
It's the honor's mine. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, let's start with just a few of the developments, if we may. Speaking of the surveillance state, apparently a number of banks are actually, without any legal basis, just simply saying to the FBI or whatever agency, oh, you want this or that, and obliging without a warrant or further discussion. Your reaction?
Well, I think most of us in the January 6th community were aware of this, but I'm so happy that the American people are starting to find out about this corruption that's going on right now and this weaponization. Everyone's talking about the weaponization of the DOJ, and it is true, it's taking place, but it's so much bigger than anyone could imagine. And to your point, with the banks, I mean, they are literally turning around and turning over all this evidence. It's not just the banks, it's the phones, the phone companies. They're turning all this data over without a warrant. And it's even worse coming on the heels of our Congress just voting to extend FISA to where they can continue spying on American citizens without a warrant. We truly live in a police state as we speak.
There is absolute truth to what you say. We can call it a police state, the deep state, the Marxist Dems and the deep state, surveillance. I mean, you go through it all. But what it comes down to is suddenly this country is in the grip of Marxist Dems, and their agenda is now the public agenda for this government. The entire federal government, every agency is now controlled by the Marxist Dems and the deep state. And it's going to be a long, hard fight to remove them from office, remove them from their sinecures as civil servants. I mean, this is a government that has to be cleaned out of the political activists of the left, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's safe to say that we live under more tyranny today than our founding fathers did in 1776. And, to your point about cleaning this out, that's part of the problem with our country right now is we have too many politicians in politics. I think we're getting to a point, though, where it's starting to affect the everyday American, and you're starting to see everyday American citizens getting involved in politics. And we need everyday Americans. People just love this country. People don't want the job, but they feel that there's no one else who's willing to do the job to step up and fill these vacancies and fill these positions. Everything from city council all the way up through Congress. And that's the only way we're going to save this country. We're not going to save this country by continuing to elect the very politicians who put us in this mess to begin with.
Right. And I hope that all sorts of folks in this country from every walk of life will get involved in their local politics as well, because if we can control where we live, and that is where we have the greatest influence, is in our communities, we can change things around much quicker and certainly more quickly, and I think even better in terms of bringing a quality of life back to the community, whether it's in the schools, whether it is protecting our freedoms and our faith. We have to have control of our communities and take it back from the fools who, in too many instances, are trying to be, the hometown Marxist. We don't need any of those. So give us a sense. You're looking at the Tennessee legislature failing to establish criminal charges for parents who assist with often irreversible so-called gender-affirming care. Often that's simply mutilation. Your thoughts on what should be done?
Well, and first we got to call it out and call it for what it is. The Tennessee legislature is controlled by Republicans. This is their own party right now. We got a bunch of spineless jellyback rhinos in a lot of these positions across the country who are bending the knee to big pharma. It's all for money for big pharma because they're the ones. I mean, it's roughly it's millions and millions of dollars per child who decides to quote unquote transition. And they're doing this for profit. They're doing this all for the kickbacks that come with that. It's a shame, to say the least. Look, if we're going to be a society that's not going to protect our little girls and our little boys, then we need to look around and ask ourselves if that's a society that we want to be a part of. And I'll tell you, Lou, a lot of this is all happening because as a whole, this is not everyone, obviously, but as a whole, we have a society full of weak men right now. Men are supposed to be the leaders and protectors of our communities, of our wives, of our daughters, our children, our sons, mothers, grandmothers. And we are sitting by as men, as a society, and allowing this to happen and allow them to attack not just our little girls, but our little boys right now. This is nothing more than liberal indoctrination. And this was never a thing in the past. It all of a sudden just came out of nowhere because they're being indoctrinated and they're being tricked into believing that this is normal. And it's really sad where we're seeing going through our children. I got 4 young children myself, and it's hard as a parent right now to try to protect them from all the different evil things that they're trying to use to desensitize and to groom our children into accepting this sort of lifestyle.
Yeah, and to that point, it's bad enough that we have 2 powerful national teachers unions that want to interpose themselves between children and their parents, students and their families. And we've got to roll that back right now. It's just what we're witnessing. Our children, we are really permitting this to happen to our children. It's got to stop. And I don't care what anyone says. You vote for a Democrat, you're voting for more of this, and you're voting for Marxist philosophy and ideology. And in that way lies totalitarian and the elimination of our Constitution. Derek Evans, thanks so much for being with us, and come back. I'd like to talk more about the issues that you're going to bring to the fore in West Virginia as you campaign for Congress. Derek, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. God bless you guys.
God bless you. Thanks. We turn now to some election news. The Marxist Dems are gearing up to turn out the Latino vote in November. Trump has been, as you know, cutting into Biden's once big Latino support levels in the polls. In response, Democrat mega donors like George Soros are bankrolling an election influence operation. Disinformation, misinformation, all aimed at Latinos. Of course, they aren't telling the public that the left-wing get out the vote effort is, being presented as a humble partnership between Televisa and Univision and nonpartisan advocacy groups. What isn't being advertised is that money from Soros and others is funding all of it. Axios, for example, is calling it, though, a nonpartisan campaign to try to boost Latino turnout. Isn't that benign? Isn't that nice that these nonpartisans like George Soros are helping out in whatever little way they can? Well, we know what the point is. We know what the reason is. Well, a big victory for children in Tennessee. Lawmakers approving legislation to punish any adult who helps minors undergo the butchery of gender-affirming care without parental assent. The law is expected to be signed by Governor Bill Lee, and it's about time every state had a very similar law. If you're not going to protect our children, what in the world are you doing in our schools? Well, let's turn now to the Mexican drug cartel's border. 2,000 miles of border between the United States and Mexico. It belongs to the Mexican drug cartels, thanks to Joe Biden. Joe Biden's Immigration and Customs Enforcement has been hiding the identities of criminal aliens arrested by ICE agents. The Immigration Reform Law Institute is now suing ICE regarding that policy. You see, it isn't nice to hide criminal names and identities from the American public. An analysis by the Institute found that Biden's ICE identifies just 67% of their subjects. Only 67%. And if you're with me, 33%, I believe, would be left. And they are nameless. They're unidentified. In contrast, Donald Trump's administration identified 97%. So which one of these two presidents cares most about the safety of American citizens? It's not the one who is more concerned with protecting the privacy of illegal alien criminals than protecting our communities. I mean, it's astonishing. Biden is more worried about illegals like Miguel Hernandez Ruiz than young victims. Ruiz was arraigned on 1 count of home invasion, 2 counts of first-degree criminal sexual assault. He also entered the country on a temporary work visa, but overstayed it much longer after it expired in 2021. In March of this year, Ruiz broke into a Michigan home and there sexually assaulted 2 girls under the age of 13. Think about this for just a moment. The people who run our immigration policy, the people who are in charge of immigration and customs enforcement, interior enforcement of our immigration laws, from the White House to ICE, care more about Ruiz than those little girls. They can deny and make whatever excuses they want, but the proof is in policy and performance. And this administration is demonic in its refusal to enforce the law. And it's in who they prioritize, illegal aliens or American citizens. And we all know the answer. Joining us now is Counterpoint Institute President Shay Bradley, and Shay is an expert in national security and joins us from the that border that is controlled by the Mexican drug cartels. Shay, great to have you with us. What's the border like right now where you are?
Well, you're right, Lou, absolutely. And I wanted to show you how our borders are wide open. Look right here behind me, and this is the Rio Grande. On the other side is Mexico. Lou, I could wade or swim right across, come right over here. I'm still on the American side, and let me swing you over to Trump's wall. But if you keep going down to the left, I was down there yesterday, and you can see where Trump's wall ends and Governor Abbott's fence begins, but there's probably 2 trailer wide space between them. So anybody that wants to come into this country can do so. There's no border patrol. There's no Texas DPS. There's nobody to stop them. But you know what, Lou? It doesn't matter if there is. What I have been finding out is, of course, the Border Patrol have catch and release. So Border Patrol used to interview people for about an hour and a half. Now, because of the mass influx under Biden's policies, they've got about 4 minutes. So after that, they have to release them into the interior. And here's the thing. We don't know who they are. Most of the time, they have dropped their IDs somewhere. We cannot vet them because we do not share records with most countries, even if we fingerprint them. I just talked to the county attorney in Kinney, and that's one thing that he told me is, in fact, he said, we only catch about 20% of the people going through. Those that we do, we barely know who they are. So our border has been totally sabotaged by the Biden administration. For them to even go through the farce of paperwork and processing, it's like I said, it's a farce. It's a paperwork farce. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. The paperwork, the so-called encounters, all of the nonsense, the estimates about getaways. I mean, you go through all of the Biden DHS nonsense. It's purely pretense. It is purely really a welcome wagon that, as you know, down there at that border. It's interesting that the country just will not wake up to, it seems, the reality that the national left-wing media, the Marxist media in this country, owned by corporates, owned by donors, globalists, they will not report the truth. They won't go down there and spend days on the border with you, Shay.
Right.
They're afraid that something might happen. They'd have to report. It's really ridiculous.
You are absolutely right, sir. And the people here that I've been talking to are angry. I talked to a rancher, Wayne King. He's lost about $400,000 since Biden took office. Illegals cutting holes in his fence. He's lost livestock. They have sabotaged his water supply. He's been surrounded in his house by illegals who are armed with camo in the middle of the night, and he and his wife, in there with their rifles waiting for somebody to come in. I talked to a Border Patrol wife who has lived on a ranch, and she has had to fend off illegals coming onto her property trying to harm her and her 3 children. They do this. She's had to do this repeatedly. She was chased by one that was trying to rape her. She found out that he had a criminal record after that. She has had to get them off her porch that were banging, trying to get in. Not people that needed food and water, because she's done that too, but these were people that were trying to harm them. And what I'm saying, Lou, is that there is no American citizen that should ever have to live like this.
Yeah, no one should have to. Excuse me. And the reality is that once upon a time, when ranchers, whether they're in Arizona or Texas, New Mexico, even California, they felt secure along the border, no matter how expansive the land that they lived on. They were protected to some great measure by the Border Patrol, by the DEA, by other agencies that were on the border. Today, that border is in the possession of the Marxist Mexican drug cartels, bringing all of that fentanyl into the country. There's no one to stop it, and there's no one to protect those people. I feel for those ranchers because right now, basically, if they don't have their their AR-15 or whatever their weapon of choice. I mean, they are in real danger down there now.
They are in danger, and this rancher and this wife, Allison Anderson, that I spoke with, both of them have actually talked to Congress members and other officials. They have gone out of their way to go and talk to them to say, hey, we are in danger. We're living in fear. I mean, Allison told me, actually, several people have told me they have high-speed chases every day in Del Rio because the DPS is trying to apprehend illegals. But they were, Lou, I've been down here several times since Biden has been in office. I've been in Arizona border, New Mexico. I've never seen people like this. I will say they're visibly angry, visibly upset. I talked to a medical professional also that worked in the Firefly facility down here. It's a processing. And he's been traumatized by the people coming in that have been traumatized by the Mexican cartels. And nobody will
We're a
listen.
nation. Yeah, we're a nation that's traumatized with all that this administration, this Marxist administration, has done in its effort to absolutely destroy this constitutional republic and to end America as we know it. Shay Bradley Farrell, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Shay is at the Del Rio area on the border with Mexico. Again, the Rio Grande and the border itself under the control of Mexican drug cartels. Shay, thanks so much, and stay safe.
Thanks so much, Lou. I will. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
And now I want to talk about when Mike Lindell invented the original MyPillow. It had everything you could want in a pillow. And now, nearly 20 years later, Mike has discovered a new technology that makes MyPillow even better. The MyPillow 2.0 has the patented adjustable fill of the original MyPillow, but now with fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread. The MyPillow 2.0 is the softest, smoothest, and coolest pillow you'll ever own. Right now, MyPillow is offering a buy one, get one free on the MyPillow 2.0 when you go to mypillow.com and use promo code Dobbs. That's promo code Dobbs, or call 800-977-9152 and say goodbye to tossing and turning in your sleep and flipping your pillow over during the night. Take advantage of this buy one, get one free offer by going to mypillow.com and use promo code Dobbs. I have to tell you, I get such a kick out of that promo code Dobbs. Please use it and join us on my podcast, The Great America Show, Monday through Friday. Thanks for being with us. Join us Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. The Lindell Report is coming up next. You do not want to miss it. Mike, take it away, everybody. Thanks for being with us. Good night. Have a great weekend. God bless America. Our guest tonight is one of the few congressmen fighting back. He's co-sponsored a bipartisan piece of legislation that seeks to constrain the surveillance state. His bill is called the Fourth Amendment is Not for Sale Act. And Congressman Warren Davidson of Ohio joins us tonight. Welcome, Congressman. Great to have you with us. We appreciate it. Anything that could be done to constrain the surveillance state is something I would definitely support, and I believe nearly all Americans would. Where do you stand with this legislation, and what has been the reception of your leadership and the Republican Party in the House and your colleagues?
Well, the great thing, Lou, thank you for having me on, and thanks so much for highlighting this. This has been a tough issue to get people to pay attention to. I mean, if people were as vigilant about defending the right to privacy as we have been about defending the right to keep and bear arms, we'd be in great shape. But the Fourth Amendment is just grossly abused, and the right to privacy has been trampled on for decades, frankly. And part of the way this goes back to the 70s with a couple bad court decisions created this doctrine called the third party doctrine. And at the end of the day, that's why the big business, big government coalition is so powerful. They want everything to stay account based, because the premise is that once you've shared your information with anyone else, you no longer have an expectation of privacy. that would mean like, well, you mean my cell phone company, they get information? You mean my bank, they get my information? You mean geolocation data in your car, your phone? I mean, everything in the world, every app that tracks you. They're basically trying to say, well, you have an account with them, so you don't expect privacy. So it is terribly infringed. And we finally got, the Fourth Amendment's not for sale. And so with that infringement, the government's decided that they can just buy up data that they would otherwise have to get warrant or subpoena for. And they really don't even need the warrant or subpoena anymore. They buy around having to get the things that are required by the Fourth Amendment. So we passed it in the House. Now we need a vote in the Senate.
And a vote in the Senate. Mitch McConnell, has he signaled any appetite for this kind of legislation that is for the Constitution?
Well, I think Mitch McConnell would probably be on the other side of this issue. It's a weird issue in the sense there aren't very many things that don't break on party lines anymore. I mean, pretty much you've got, red versus blue on virtually every thing that you're tracking. But we passed this in the House with a coalition of 123 Republicans and 96 Democrats. And when we tried to get a warrant on FISA, that was abused. We had 126 Republicans say get a warrant, even for FISA data, but only 84 Democrats. And part of that was the Biden administration had the Attorney General literally calling Democrat members of Congress and, pushing down the vote count there. So the White House also worked against this. So in your own party, there is extra pressure to kind of support whatever the administration calls. And we would not have gotten this done without a bipartisan coalition. And so, look, it's tough to reclaim freedom once it's been surrendered, but we have a chance here on the Fourth Amendment's not for sale. Chuck Schumer is a co-sponsor of Dick Durbin's version. Dick Durbin's the chairman of the Senate Judiciary.
Mm-hmm. How did Speaker Johnson vote on your bill?
He actually voted for it. And, it got pushed out of the FISA path. And in a way that kind of made sense because it applies broadly. It's not just a FISA bill. It applies to the entire collection gathering, law enforcement and intelligence collection gathering mechanism. Is basically and applies throughout the country. So it was supposed to be part of it was in the judiciary based text. Then it was going to be an amendment to FISA. They did get an amendment vote in the Senate, and unfortunately, it didn't pass there. But the hope is, as a standalone product, we could find a coalition to get this across the finish line. It didn't pass by a big margin in the House, but it did pass.
Right. And you said something interesting. You said if people had given as much attention to privacy rights as they have the right to bear arms, that you believe it'd be quite a profound difference. Can I ask you why you would think that that all of our Bill of Rights are not pertinent, deserve equal attention on the part of the American people, and we deserve all of those protections? We don't have a menu there to choose from. We have all of those rights. Why would you say that?
They are. And look, I mean, the Bill of Rights is a limitation of government, not a limitation on the rights of our citizens. And so I think one of the reasons with the second is there's a product, firearms and ammunition that people go buy and they engage in it as a hobby. Privacy is just inculcated into everyday way of life. And we had court decisions that protect the mail.
Where do you get the
more
idea that
vigorously
people consider it a
email.
hobby? The Second Amendment of the Constitution is one of the most important rights we have. I mean, I don't understand why you would trivialize it.
Well, don't call me trivializing it. I mean, I came on your show because I defend this stuff. I'm darn sure not trivializing it. I defend it adamantly. What I'm telling you, and the question I asked of viewers was, why do people pay attention to it? And it's because they engage in it. They're actively engaging in it. I know the freaking Constitution. You come on here and insult me, I'm not pleased.
I insulted you? You're the one who just said
I'm not
that it was a
trivializing the
hobby.
Second Amendment. I'll guarantee you that.
I'm sorry. Did you not say as if it's a hobby?
You asked me, Lou. You asked me, why do people pay more attention to the Second Amendment than the Fourth? And I told you, because people go buy firearms and they buy
I didn't ask
ammunition.
you that at all. I didn't ask you that at all.
All right, man. Take care, brother. I love you.
You too. Congressman, I appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much. Warren Davidson of Ohio.
Three years ago, FrankSpeech.com was launched during the height of mass media censorship to give voices back to those who had their voices silenced. This April, Lindell TV celebrates 3 years of uncensored truth about America's stolen elections, the voting machines, and the fight to return to paper ballots. Today, we stand at the precipice of a new era, covering the most important presidential election in American history. An era defined by the battle for some of our most fundamental rights: freedom of speech, freedom of press, and secure elections. We at Frank Speech refuse to be silenced. We refuse to bow down to the forces that seek to dictate what we can and cannot say. We are the media now. Join us in this fight at FrankSpeech.com.
You might not want to hear what we're saying, but we're going to say it.
Hi, I'm Kevin Sorbo. Now, many of you remember me as Hercules, facing incredible odds for the world that he cherished. But today, I'm stepping into a different role. Not as a mythical hero, but as a fellow American. I'm inviting you to embark on a mission crucial to our nation's future. At this pivotal moment, America stands at a crossroads. Our unity, values, and vision for tomorrow are being tested. It might seem like the weight of the world is too heavy for one person to lift, but history shows us that it's the courage of individuals that has always illuminated the path forward. The call for heroes is more urgent than ever. Not the mythical ones, but real-life individuals like you, ready to uphold what's right, champion truth, and unite in protecting our beloved nation. This is your moment. Your journey as a modern-day hero starts right now. Stand with AMAC and let's show the world the power of true heroism in action. Be the hero our country needs.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest. So call Genesis Gold Group now at 1-800-200-GOLD. That's 1-800-200-4653, or go to LindellGoldRush.com now.
Hi, I'm Joe Altman with Conservative Daily Podcast, and I'm here to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of Frank Speech. Big things are happening, and some of them have 4 wheels. 4 wheels, world-class safety, and great gas mileage. Can you guess what's next?
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest. So call Genesis Gold Group now at 1-800-200-GOLD. That's 1-800-200-4653, or go to LindellGoldRush.com now.
3 years ago, FrankSpeech.com was launched during the height of mass media censorship to give voices back to those